Okay, it sounds like Chuck is ready on his end. Um, well, welcome to the July Drought Monitoring Work Group conference call. Let's do a round of introductions. This is Dave Dubois down in Las Cruces.
This is Raymond Abate of the Reclamation, and I have Ed Kendall with me.
Wayne Fleet
from
Garcia.
Hi, this is Brian Ward from NMDA.
Susan Rich with New Mexico State Forestry.
Chuck Jones, Senior Forecaster here at the National Weather Service office. There's 6 other people here. I will let them introduce themselves, since I will never remember everybody's name.
This is Alex Shoebanks with Senator Heinrich's office.
Mariana Padilla with Congresswoman Michelle Lujan Grisham's office.
Molly Magnuson from the New Mexico Office of the State Engineer.
Julie Lopez from New Mexico Office of the State Engineer.
John Fleck from the Albuquerque Journal.
We brought our intern.
Okay. And one intern.
Anybody else?
Good morning. This is David Brown with NOAA Regional Climate Services in Fort Worth. Thanks, Dave.
This is Les Owen down at NMDA.
Wendy Blackwell, Homeland Security Emergency Management.
This is Emily Geary with the Drinking Water Bureau.
All right. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Chad McNutt from NOAA in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. We'll get started. I think Chuck has some interesting image on the screen. Is everybody able to see the go-to PowerPoint on their computer right now? Anybody not see it?
More like a depressing image.
Yeah, depressing image. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
There's something at the top, but there's nothing at the bottom.
Yeah. What happened there? So go ahead, Chuck. Get started.
Amazing what 19 years will do. Actually, probably more, just like 4 or 5 years. Elephant Butte back in the good old days, 1994, and more recently this year. Wow. No wonder there's virtually no flow in there right now, or at least at the end of June. So Victor Murphy sent me that. I wanted to show that as a lead-in, not to depress everybody, but we actually do have, obviously some better news at this point with all the rainfall we've seen around the state this month. First slide will be June statewide precipitation. We actually did have some above normal precipitation across parts of central and especially eastern New Mexico. The sharp demarcation line you might see here looks a little funny. The Colorado Basin RFC, I think, was missing data for a few days last month. But that being said, western New Mexico was well below normal. And in fact, the state as a whole ended up below normal. This next slide will show that we were the 37th driest on record, going back to the late 1800s. We were about 0.43 inches below the normal statewide average, so close to half an inch below. For the calendar year, January through June, the first 6 months, first half of the year, statewide average just up a little bit to 44% of normal. The Northeast Plains now, thanks to the rain in June, is up to 2/3 of normal, of 66% of normal. Meanwhile, the southern deserts and Central Valley, a good portion of the central sections of New Mexico remain well below normal at around a quarter of what is normally expected through the first 6 months of the year. And you can see here on this graphic for the country, but here in New Mexico, 7th driest on record, for the first half of any year. And it only gets a little worse. First, though, I wanted to show you some calendar year precipitation deficits through June. Obviously, a lot of these places are much higher now, thanks to the July precip. We'll see some of those numbers here in a little while. But through June, we were still hurting in a lot of places across the state. For the water year, going back to October through June, again, the statewide average 44%, exactly what it is for the first 6 months. So going back 9 months, we're still 44% of normal. The Northeast Plains, 61%, and again, the Central Valleys and the Southern Deserts, 24% of normal, respectively, for both of those. And for the water year, we're currently the 5th driest on record. Sorry, I didn't have time to put little circles on like I usually do. And if we go back 12 months, from July of last year through June of this year, 2nd driest on record. With only, again, the early 1900s doing better or worse. In 24 months, if we go back 2 years, 24 consecutive months, from July 2011 through June of this year, it's the driest on record. Just ahead of the 50s and the early 1900s. Same thing for the 36-month consecutive period. Driest on record. If we go to 48 months, again, then we start to see we fall behind the 1950s, which was exceptionally dry from the early 50s through the mid-50s. And for the 60 months, or 5 years back, 8th driest on record. Again, the 1950s is a benchmark for 5-year drought period. So what's that mean in terms of precipitation deficits? You can see the 12, 24, 36, 48, and 60 month precipitation deficits here. And during our 2 and 3 year period here, where the state's driest on record, you can see the pretty significant precipitation deficits, and these are statewide averages, so you really would need, nearly 11.5 inches of rain to fall over the entire state to make up that 3 year deficit. Okay, let's get more fun here. This is much more interesting because we have precipitation. This is the departures from normal from July 1 through 28. And you can see how much above normal parts of the Central Valley here is, and over into the southeast part of the state. Only in the northwest is really below normal. We've had some very significant rains, obviously, this month, and it's showing up here on the departure from the anomaly here. This is from Prism Climate Group out of Oregon State University. Do not share this with anybody. They're kind enough to let us use this here in these types of meetings, but it's not to be shared with the general public. Not yet, anyway. Here's some totals through the first 28 days of this month. And nice rainfall across Albuquerque, anywhere from 2 to over 4.5 inches. And around 2 to over 3 in Santa Fe. So, and then some of the Cocoras sites in Las Vegas and Silver City showing anywhere from 7 inches in Vegas, and there's one site in Silver City that claims 9.5 inches this month. So, tend to believe it. There was a couple others that were 7 and 8. So, and if we go back here, there's some decent rain down in here. I'm not sure it's. Well, I tend to believe those numbers. Anyway. So here we are. This is the latest drought status. Unfortunately, we're still in drought, despite what some people might be saying or asking. We've been fielding dozens of calls in the last few days, wondering if the drought was over. You know, it's taken many years to develop this extreme. It's going to take time to get rid of it, especially agriculturally and hydrologically. Meteorologically, not as long probably, but it's going to take time. Still 80% of the states in extreme or exceptional drought, and the rest of the state in moderate to severe drought. So the entire state, as of a week ago, was still in some form of drought. And if we compare this to 1 month ago, finally we actually start to see a little bit of improvement, mainly over the west central and southwest here, and then over the southeast and the east central plains through the first 3+ weeks of July. And that trend will continue, obviously, when today's numbers come out on this Thursday. I expect to see a little bit more improvement. 3 months change, though, we're still seeing from April to this month, still quite a bit of drought worsening over much of the state, if not all of it. Again, 80% extreme to exceptional drought. Let's see what might be in our future here in terms of precipitation outlooks and temperature outlooks for New Mexico. First of all, the model consensus still heavily supporting El Nino Southern Oscillation or ENSO neutral conditions into the fall. You can see there the probabilities greatly favor neutral conditions, actually even into the winter. And then here's the model predictions, all plotted on here, and they're generally, most of them holding in the -5 to +5 range here through the fall, and thus supporting the idea of ENSO neutral continuing. Okay, Climate Prediction Center's outlook for August, precipitation-wise. This is nice. The western and especially southwest portions of the state, we're thinking odds are tilted toward above normal precipitation, with equal chances in the eastern portion of the state. And temperatures, as they have been for quite a while, strongly tilted toward above normal temperatures across all of New Mexico, but especially the north. If we go out 90 days and we look at August through October, very similar. West and especially southwest, odds are trending toward above normal precipitation for that part of New Mexico, while there's equal chances of below, near, and above normal across central and eastern areas of the state. And again, temperature is highly tilted toward above normal across all of New Mexico. The seasonal drought outlook showing improvement over all of New Mexico from now through October. So that's certainly nice to see. I haven't seen that in quite a while. And even some drought being removed across Arizona and West Texas. So certainly we can say, the last month it's been a big help. It's eased the drought a little bit, but the state's still in dire straits in terms of drought. And that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Chuck? Well, I was looking at the draft drought monitor for this coming week, and we're looking at in the southern part of Eddy County, southern Otero. It looks like in West Texas, they're bringing in a little more of D0, and maybe just a clipping of D0 into the D1 area in the southern parts of Otero and Eddy. So I think that was the main thing I saw for this week. And there has been some good rains out in south of here where I am in Las Cruces, in Mexico, going through El Paso. So I think I would go along with that.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I hadn't seen that yet.
But majority of the D3, D4 looks fairly consistent. Maybe some slight changes, but not that much. I saw some images from, was it Kerry, from yesterday's presentation, the briefing of some standing water in the northern Jornada. I'm not sure exactly where that was. So there is.
I didn't see him either. I wasn't able to attend.
Okay. But there was some definite like that impacts of in Silver City. I think there was some real local heavy rains. I remember. I've been out for the past couple of weeks, so I'm catching up on all the events for the last 2 weeks. But I think I think that was right. Anything for discussion about outlooks or impacts meteorologically? Okay. All right. Raymond, you're on? You still there?
Yes, sir, still here.
All right, you're next.
We're starting the Rio Grande Basin. Littoral storage is 8,865. Heron, 108,324. Novato, 17,252. Abiquiu, 138,617. Cochiti, 47,744. Elephant Butte, 70,789. And Caballo's about 7,200. Okay, on the Pecos, Santa Rosa is 8,333. Sumner, 5,117. Brantley, 59,16. Avalon, 23,78. As far as the water, the rains put a lot of water through the Rio Grande. Fortunately, there was some that some of the earlier rains the district was able to use because there was still demand for it. This last one, though, of course, everyone got saturated. So, and of course, it was pretty risky to try to take some of that. It did some damage to the canals. So they were trying to shut everything off to avoid more damage, but there wasn't any need or demand for that water, so it just went on downstream. But hopefully that'll help Elephant Butte out some. On the Pecos, they had some rains above Santa Rosa and a little bit between Santa Rosa and Sumner. And since our last meeting, Santa Rosa gained about 5,000 acre feet, and Sumner gained about almost 2,000 acre feet. So that'll help, and so did Brantley. Brantley gained about 1,000, and Avalon gained about 1,000. They had some rain events down in that area also. So some of this will help. This will help prolong. And hope we keep, Sumner going, and the storage rate that we can go ahead and keep irrigating for FSID and maybe get another water in or two for CID. So hopefully these rains will kind of shift to the east and help them out in that area. But that's all I've got. Anyone have any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Raymond. Any other questions that you're holding back? If not, I think, Wayne, you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Wayne.
How are you today?
Pretty good. So I think Chuck uploaded your files.
Which one do you want, man, to start with?
Go ahead and put the 7-1 update report on. This will just give us kind of a brief of where we started the month at the high elevations. Most of our sites were somewhere in the 45 to 65% of normal. The Sangre de Cristos were right in that 60% range. Upper Rio Grande in Colorado was about 65. As you went south, Gila was about 50. Members was about 45. So it was just, and that's for the water year from October 1st to July 1st. So we were at a pretty significant deficit statewide. I didn't send it out, but the just July percent of normal precipitation. Most basins in the state were somewhere in the 150 to 190% average at the high elevations. So it was a good month pretty much statewide. The only basin that was a little low, the Jemez was right about average. It was about 95%, and Sierra Blanca down near Ruidoso was only about 70% of normal for the month of July. But we had such a deficit that if you look at the July 30th update report, you'll see that the water year percents of normal all came up, but we're still only about 70 to 80% of average pretty much statewide. So that deficit is still there. That basic lack of snowpack, which is a good source of moisture at the high elevations in the winter and spring, never occurred this year. So these rainfalls have helped, but they're not making up the whole difference. It's just kind of too little too late at the high elevations for the summer. Although July was a really good month, and I'm hoping that August will turn out the same. If you want to put up the weekly drought monitor update, we'll just kind of run through the first few pages of that. The week prior to July 25th, the 7 days prior, New Mexico was a little below average temperature-wise that week. We had that series of storms that came through, and we stayed fairly cool during that period. But it was fairly close to normal. The next page, I believe, just has that kind of spelled out a little different way, has a little different graphic, but shows the same thing. Instead of the point map, it's got it filled. And if you scroll down one more page, you'll be able to see that precipitation totals up to July 25th for the month to date. Basically all of New Mexico, with the exception of like say Sierra Blanca down there, was well above average for the month. And then if you go down one more page, I believe, two pages, you'll see the water year to date up to, the next page down is the water year to date precipitation in a graphical format or a field map format. So it does show that we're still overall below normal for the state. And really the whole western United States has been below normal this water year. So it's not just limited to us. It's been a widespread issue. So the rest of that report, I think, has already been kind of touched on. So I don't know that we need to run through the whole thing, the drought monitor, and the changes. So unless you guys want to just kind of scroll through it and ask questions, that's pretty much what I've got.
Okay. Any questions for Wayne?
You seen any improvement in the soil moisture? Probably, I guess, in the first few inches down so far this month. Do you have any?
Yeah, it seems like the top two sensors on most sites, which are 4-inch or 2-inch and 8-inch, have picked up pretty significant increases. Not all the sites that have the sensors are calibrated, but you can see an uptick in soil moisture in those top two. The 20-inch is still hasn't really picked up a whole lot that I've noticed. And a lot of the rainfall that we've gotten has been pretty high intensity, so it's not deep soaking rains for the most part. So that's not surprising that deeper soil moisture hasn't picked up a lot. But it's improving. It's much better than we were a month ago, and at this point every bit helps. So sure not going to complain about it.
Okay, any further discussion, questions? All right. I didn't know, is there somebody? Is Anne Marie on the line?
She wasn't going to be able to make it.
Oh, she wasn't going to be able to make it? Okay. All right. So it looks like you've got
I'll just show the stream flow conditions, and this of course was at the end of June, and so things are pretty dire. Everybody's 50% or below in terms of average. To see some of the flows, how low they are compared to the historical average. Canadian River, that basin, this Pecos is pretty bad.
All right. Okay, well, we can circulate that around later. I think I don't think John was on, but I think Molly, are you there?
I'm here.
Are you going to do the presentation?
You want it? Or you can either keyboard or the mouse, either one. It'll work from over there.
Will it work from here?
Yep. Should. Yeah. It's just crappy on the table. Yeah.
Okay, so no, John's not here. We're just going to do a little update on some of the presentations that we've done in the past.
Can everybody hear her okay?
She's a little soft.
Well,
Can't hear. Can't hear.
I'll try to speak louder. So we're going to cover a few reservoir levels, a little stream flow data from the areas around the state. And again, this is our legend. We have the yellow is the last year's level, the blue is the current, and then the red line would be average for the different reservoirs with storage in thousands of acre feet. And some stream flow data also. So this is from the USGS, the Pecos River above Santa Rosa. You can see in, I don't have a little, you can see that there was some rainfall events in June and July, and you got some little little flows up on the gauge. The black line is the
Is it a running average?
7-day average discharge. And then, why is that? So then we looked at this is the Pecos River above Santa Rosa. This is the cumulative flow in May, and then here's July. So you can see that we've had some significant flows, but we're still down here at the lowest observed cumulative flow measurement.
Pretty sad when we're happy we get up to the lowest.
I know,
lowest
it
flow
is,
on
isn't
record.
it? Sumner Reservoir is, just around 3,000 acre feet, I don't know. These numbers were from the NRCS website, and so they're as of the end of June. Yeah. There's Brantley, down around not even 5. Navajo, which is, as we see, lower than last year. Heron and Elvado and Abiquiu, I mean, everything is still certainly lower than average, and certainly lower than last year. This is the stream gauge on Rio Chama, which is above the lowest observed cumulative flow. So that's good. And then this one is on the Rio Grande near Cerro. So we're creeping up a little bit. Still at the bottom of this green band here. And Elephant Butte and Caballo, as we heard earlier, are still pretty darn low. In Elephant Butte, that's really low. Well, those pictures at the beginning were pretty evident. So that's what we had. Do you have anything to add? No. And as usual, we'll put all these presentations on the Drought Task Force website.
Okay, thanks, Molly. Any questions for Molly? Okay. We do want to, I just want to add in, we do have a drought task force meeting next week. And I think it's so far what I've seen, it's in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Is that correct? Is that still right?
Yes, that is correct. On the 7th.
Okay.
Molly, do you know if we have a draft agenda for that yet?
I haven't seen one.
Okay.
Okay, I don't hear any more discussion. So let's move on to Les at the New Mexico Department of Agriculture. You still on, Les?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Great.
I don't have much to share. Just I sent out the weekly crop and weather report from NASS, and it just to kind of go over some of the stuff. Summarize, pasture conditions are improving in some areas around the state that have been receiving the rainfall. It's kind of spotty around the state, but some areas are starting to green up, and some are actually starting to produce some significant forage. So that's a good sign. Of course, the impacts are going to be long term as far as getting over the drought once it does finally decide to break completely. But and I wasn't able to get a departure from average and DVI map put together. I just got a new computer, and it doesn't have some boxes checked or something somewhere in there. It's not letting me open the program. So beyond that, I don't have anything unless anybody has any questions.
Any particular area, counties, they're still not seeing any significant improvement?
In I've been traveling around the state a little bit over the past month or so, and just last week I went up to Farmington, and down here around Cruces up through really almost to Albuquerque, there's just don't see any of the rangeland starting to green up at all. Get up north of Albuquerque, heading out towards Cuba, and there's some areas up through there that are starting to look really good. Kind of cross over the Continental Divide, headed over towards Farmington, and it starts turning brown again. There's some areas it makes you feel good to see that pretty green grass out there, and some tank water in the arroyos and whatnot. So it's spotty. I think it's spotty throughout the state, but at least some areas are improving. So that's the take home. Some areas are improving, I guess.
Okay, any other questions for Les? Okay. All right, I don't think Joyland or Emelita, I didn't hear, are they on the call from FSA?
Hi, Joyland's on.
Oh, hi, Joyland. Sorry about that. I didn't hear you on the introduction. Sorry.
I think I came in at the same time someone else announced.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a report this month, unless you guys have questions that have come up, but I don't have anything other than listen to what you guys have said.
Okay. Any questions for Joyland? I hear silence. Okay. All right. Any other input? Any other announcements? Discussion that you're holding back? Nope.
I just hope some of this keeps up for a while.
Yeah, for sure. At least it looks like the southwest corner, western side of the state looks most promising, so that's our take home so far. Equal chances for the rest of the areas.
This is Wendy Blackwell. I guess one thing from our perspective, although we're thrilled to be getting the rain, of course now we're seeing flooding in particular areas, and so that's something I guess that we shouldn't, we don't want to miss the dominoes that are falling. Of course, if you're looking at drought and water supply, of course it's good that we're getting rain, but the flip side is that we've got emergency managers all over the state reporting damage and injuries and et cetera. So I don't know how much anyone else on the call is even involved in that aspect of things, but in our line of work, it's a whole different. There's a different perspective. I just thought I'd interject that.
Excellent point.
Getting the storms parked right over the fires too.
Yeah, the debris flows really have so much potential to do damage because they're so they're laden with such sediment and large debris at these first couple of rainstorms. So we're actually tallying all the damage statewide to determine if we are going to ask for another presidential declaration to help assist these local communities and tribes in recovery work. Again, it's not related to the drought task force specifically, but I'm just adding it in as a discussion item. That's all.
Well, we're certainly aware of that. The National Weather Service, since we've been issuing a lot of flash flood warnings for these burn scar areas this month. It's funny, last year Whitewater Baldy was really lucky and missed out on just about every storm, and this year they're getting quite a bit of rain and have had some quite a bit of problems there, I know. So, yeah, that point's well taken. It's not be so happy and forget about the burn scars.
I'm not sure. Right now, the Secretary Myers has the drought task force on his schedule for next week, but I'm not sure. He'll certainly report out if we do, if we have been granted a presidential declaration. What that means is basically, the opposite side of drought, right? That we would have funding to assist locals in recovery. But also it does open up some more funding for us for mitigation dollars, which we could use for education and outreach in regards to water conservation and et cetera. So it's just something, it doesn't come up often in these monthly calls, but we do have funding available for state agencies, local communities that do have mitigation plans approved, tribal entities that have mitigation plans approved, where we could do, fund some outreach and education on drought-related activities. There are like ordinance development, water conservation program development. A lot of those activities could be funded under the mitigation programs. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Wendy, don't you have one open now?
I actually have two mitigation grants open right now. One is related to the presidential flooding disaster from last summer. That grant application period is going to close in November. And then just last week opened a 90-day application period for what they call pre-disaster mitigation grants and flood management assistance grants. Neither one is related to a federal disaster. They're annual programs. And that application period closes October 18th. So, anyone on the call, if you have questions about it or you want to follow up, it may not even be drought related. It may be some other natural hazard related activity. Certainly give me a call. We can talk it through. My number in Santa Fe is 476-9676.
One last question. Did you say the presidential declaration we're requesting now is statewide?
No. When we would request a presidential declaration, it actually is required where we identify specific communities that were damaged in the event. It's the mitigation funds that we would also request. The mitigation funds would be available statewide. The public assistance money to respond to the disaster, the repair and recovery, that's community specific. But then the mitigation dollars that we would, if we are going to request a declaration, the governor would also ask for mitigation program funds. That money is actually available statewide.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Wendy.
Sure.
Any other discussion items before we head to the next discussing the next call? Okay. I have my calendar out, and it looks like based off of the next CPC forecast, which is going to be for August 15th, that's the third Thursday of the month. Since we like to have our calls after the forecast, give a couple days to soak in that. How about let me put out a date of August 20. Anybody like that? Don't like
I'll
that?
be on vacation from the 16th through the 25th, but I will be around most of the time.
How about the 27th?
Well, I mean, that's fine for me, but I don't want to, make it too late in the month for if other people want it earlier. I may still be able to attend, and if I can't, certainly somebody else will carry your D.
Wait, what? Chuck, when was your vacation times?
That's the 16th through the 25th.
25th.
I actually will probably be around from the 21st on. I'll be in town.
I don't know how many people are on this call that may even be involved in the emergency management. The statewide conference is being held the 27th through the 29th in Albuquerque, but I don't know how many people that might affect, if anybody.
2 from this office.
Okay.
So when is that? When does that end?
It's just the 27th, 28th, and 29th. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week.
Okay. Well, we could have it the 30th, end of the month.
I won't be here.
Report on the conference.
Oh, you're still at the conference. Raymond, you're not there?
I'm on the 30th.
Okay.
What if we did it 16th, right? The day after, or is that too soon?
Could do it 16th. 16th work for everybody?
Yeah, I actually may be able to do that.
When do you leave again? When do you? Where's your first day? You said the 17th.
The 16th, yeah. That's my birthday, but hey, what better place to be than?
Okay.
Help me forget how old I am.
Well, if you're willing to do that, anybody have any problems with the 16th? That's a Friday. Okay. So we'll have it on Chuck's birthday. August 16, 10 a.m. All right.
Good.
Well, thank you, folks. Thanks, everybody. See you guys later.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.